All right, let's look at our next task, and that is to create a mobile design for the issues page. So we want to have an overview of the issues that's optimized for mobile devices. We can check our problems from anywhere. Issue page matches the designs. Decreasing the windows from desktop to mobile keeps everything going. Let's look at the Figma designs. So this is what we currently have. We don't have the button and the check mark and the graph. That's another task ahead of us. So right off the bat, we have a row to a column. Each table row is changed to its own card that is stacked, and it looks like we've got the pagination here is from a row to a column. All right. So here is our issues page, and currently it looks like this. And if we go into the mobile, we still keep it. So we want that to all change appropriately. All right, we'll next get into the code and make some changes. So it's a mobile first design. So essentially, this is our desktop. We will swap out these settings here and push them over to a media query that will be for desktop, and then adjust the default settings, which will be the mobile. Here's our issue filter with our filters, select, and inputs, and that's what we'll do. We'll convert this to mobile first and make adjustments for the media query here. I'll get to work on that and we'll come back and talk about it. All right, there we go. We've got our row here and then our columns. So our default will be that mobile view. And to make that happen, we created a media query for the desktop, which is about 1024 pixels or 65 EMs. And we transferred the flex direction row and the flex end to that desktop properties, and then gave the mobile version a flex direction of column. For the input, we transferred the width of 280 to the media query desktop, and then gave that width 100, and same with the select. And there you have it. Next up, we will change the display from a table to a display grid. That will allow us to stretch this across and then have each of these have their own grid area. So the issues will have its own grid area, and then the status cells will have their own grid area across here. I think that's the way to go with that. All right, so we have our grid here. Issues takes up the first row here, and the level events and users take up the rest of the grids. And I forgot to mention here, the basic idea that we're going with here is we're transitioning every element that matters from one display type to another display type. So in this case, we have moved from a display row to a display grid. And when refactoring the code, we want to make sure that those changes are seen in the code. So we have our display grid with one fraction with the areas labeled here, and then we're basically resetting it. So we reset it back to table row. That's looks like the basic work structure that we're going to need to do. And then I put a grid area on the issue. Didn't need to do it for the others since they automatically fall in line with it. Now, the next thing we need to look at is this looks fine, and then we move here. We need to shrink these and remove them, and then also add them down here. So with that in mind, I'll get to working on that. Okay, so we've got our header row. Here it is listed here, and now it's gone. So what we did is, so we hid the header row for accessibility purposes. It's still there. It will still be read by the screen reader. And then for the desktop, we just reset everything, and that will remove that header row there. And then for the table body and the table itself, we gave them both the display block and then reset the desktop to their appropriate display property, table and table row group. That allows us to remove everything from view. And now next up, we will look at adding the headers for each of the stats here. Okay, so we went from this setting to this setting. And how we did that was in our issue row, we added a span element that we would display or not display. So in the desktop, when we reach desktop dimensions, we won't display it, but in the mobile first design, we will display it. I suspect there is some accessibility issues here since we are showing it but hiding it, or hiding it from the viewer but still having it readable for the screen reader. So I should go back to that same site and see again about how to hide these from the screen reader. And for the each of the stat cells, we wanted to get them centered. So we changed it to a display flex, which then we had to revert the desktop back to its table cell display value. And then we put in the appropriate properties in their values with some gap, a column, centering it, and centering the text. So that gives us each of the issues. And now we need to work on separating each of the issues into their own box. Alright, as you can see here, here's our desktop, and as we go in, we now have each cell distinguished. And we first removed it from the container and set those properties to the desktop. Then we took those same ones, and for each of the rows, we gave those properties to the mobile design and then reset them for the desktop. So next up is the pagination. So it looks like we'll have to get rid of that and then create some columns there. All right, so our desktop had that. So that's what we were looking at. And now we want this. And there we go. How do we do that? We had to create a button container, setting it to a display flex, giving it the full width. And then for those buttons, we had to flex them out to give them the most space possible. And then for the desktop, we just reset everything. And then we gave the pagination container a gap of 8 to spread them out. And there you have it. We have a mobile first design. And what I like about this is, say someone's on an iPad Pro. It's nice that when they go from portrait to landscape, it changes for them.